One.
Welcome once again to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Dave Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano, and we're your co-hosts now with 90 years of experience working in Colorado sports. Myself with the Denver Broncos and Dave with the CU Buffaloes. And at one time, both of us with the Denver Bears, among our many other experiences.
This week, we are continuing our revealing of the 150 significant moments, including an eventual ranking of the top 50 in Colorado sports history as we celebrate the state's 150th birthday this August 1st, the date that Colorado was admitted to the Union in 1876 as the 30th state. Nice that we give you a history lesson, isn't it? The Veterans Committee, with 350 combined years of covering and or working in sports in the state, are selecting the moments that we will count down at the rate of 5 per week and then daily for the top 10 come the end of July.
We've already covered numbers 91 through 150 in our last 12 podcasts. So this week, we are revealing numbers 86 to 90. As we count down, a reminder that all are being archived at the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website, along with all our podcasts. Go to coloradosports.org, click on the menu bar,
the Cornhuskers never had the
top
ball
150 moments
single score
or podcasts.
As the two traded field goals. But first, we like to revisit some other moments in Colorado sports history that aren't in
Any
our
hope
top
for a Nebraska comeback
often in or around the date we do our podcast. Over 1,990 now have been identified, all chronologically signifying their importance at the time. We're remembering those that had a significant impact on the state's sports scene. For example,
on April 1st, 2008, in Colorado's 4-2 win at Vancouver, Avalanche center Joe Sakic scored his 1,000th career point as an Avalanche with a second period assist, or since the team relocated from Quebec. He had scored his 1,000th with the franchise in 1999 and finished his career overall with 1,641 points, including 625 goals.
And then on April 1st, 1961, and this is not an April Fool's joke, Northern Colorado, then known as Colorado State College, beat Colorado Mines in baseball 39-1 in Greeley. But the Bears had only 18 hits, but were aided by 23 walks and 10 ore digger errors. Thus, 24 of the runs were actually unearned. They also left 9 others on base. Leading 8-1 after 2 innings, CSE scored 18 runs in the top of the third and scored an all but 1 inning in the 3.5-hour marathon.
Across the border to the north, the winner. It won't be this time.
This is Mark Johnson, voice of the Colorado Buffaloes. As we count down the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, it's worth remembering that great sports moments don't just happen. They're built on preparation, resilience, and staying healthy. And in Colorado, a great sports moment can mean something different to everyone, from Hall of Fame athletes to anyone who simply wants to keep moving. Whether you're chasing championships, personal bests, or just a pain-free morning run, the team at CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center delivers exceptional sports medicine care, from prevention and recovery to performance. Founded right here in Boulder, the CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center brings together CU medicine providers and Boulder community health clinicians to provide comprehensive care that's close to home and rooted in the community they serve. Learn more at cusportsmedicinecenter.com.
And now, on with the countdown.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, number 90.
On January 27th, 1996, Colorado Springs resident Judy Bell was named president of the United States Golf Association. That's the USGA that puts on the U.S. Open and most of the amateur events. She was elected to a 2-year term in 1996 and 1997. A member of the World Golf and Colorado Golf Hall of Fames, she was the first female president of the organization since it was founded in 1894. She had been its vice president.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, number 89.
On September 27th, 1970, the Denver Broncos played their first home game after the AFL-NFL merger, defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers 16-13. The game was played before a sellout crowd of 50,705, starting a professional sports record sellout streak that has reached 464 at the end of the 2025 season, 440 regular season games, and 24 playoff. The streak was not paused during the 2020 season when the COVID-19 pandemic limited attendance. The maximum people continued allowed in continuing that streak.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, number 88.
Let's go back to July 22nd, 1984. Boulder's Marianne Martin won the inaugural Women's Tour de France. The 26-year-old University of Colorado graduate, who didn't actually make the U.S. Olympic cycling team for the next week in Los Angeles, completed the 616-mile, 18-stage course in 29 hours, 39 minutes, and 2 seconds, besting Helen Hage of the Netherlands by 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Crowned champion in Paris, over 2 million people lined the course for the final stage.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, number 87.
Last Saturday, March 28th, before a National Women's Soccer League record crowd, the Denver Summit FC played its first home game, dueling to a scoreless tie with the Washington Spirit before 63,004 in attendance at Empower Field a Mile High. It topped the league best of 40,061 set by Bay FC, also versus Washington, last August. It was the second largest crowd ever for an inaugural home game by a state team, behind the 80,227 at the Rockies Expos opener in 1983.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history, number 86.
October 25th, 1986. Colorado's 20-10 win over number 3 Nebraska in Boulder that sunny afternoon became known as the turning point in the 13-year Bill McCartney coaching era. Not only was it CU's first win over the Huskers since 1967, it was the highest-ranked opponent the Buffaloes had defeated in 14 years. You have to go back to a 20-14 win over Oklahoma in October of '72. The Buffs' defense shined, holding Nebraska to 123 yards rushing. The Huskers finished second in the nation that year with 306 per game. The fourth quarter opened with a 52-yard touchdown pass on a halfback option, O.C. Oliver to Lance Carl, giving CU a two-score lead at 17-7. And now, I'm going to try my ineptness here by playing some clips by KOA's Larry Zimmer during that game.
First and 10 for Colorado at the 48-yard line. Nebraska's offsides unless they were drawn off. Here's the pitch. Oliver wants to throw. He's got Lance Carl open. Hot. 15, 10, 9, touchdown. The Buffaloes get scored on a 52-yard pass from O.C. Oliver to Lance Carl. Lance Carl got behind everybody. He caught it at the 15-yard line, and he went in for the touchdown. It looked like Nebraska had jumped, but they apparently got back on. No flag. Colorado's got 6 more.
The Cornhuskers never had the ball again, trailing by a single score, as the two traded field goals. Dave DeLine's 36-yarder scoring the final points of the game. Any hope for a Nebraska comeback was thwarted shortly thereafter.
Over the middle, Remington cutting out in front of Ross Smith and making the interception at the 23. Colorado takes over.
It was redemption on several fronts, snapping an 18-game losing streak to Nebraska, and was CU's third win in a row after losing all 4 non-league games, and now found itself tied with Oklahoma atop the Big 8 standings. Here's Zim's wrap-up after Nebraska's last drive ended in 4th down futility.
Keep going. He had to go underneath again. Here is Blakeman. He's got the ball. He rolls out. He's hit by Walker in circle. He fumbles the football, but they rule him down. Walker tackles Blakeman back at the 33-yard line. The clock is down to 48 seconds. 20-10. Colorado leads Nebraska. They have waited a long time for this. So many times the red flood has come into Folsom Field, and they have gone back across the border to the north, the winner. It won't be this time.
Okay, at this time, we want to welcome two of the stars of that game, receiver Lance Carl and linebacker Barry Remington. Welcome to our podcast, gentlemen.
Thanks, Platts. Thank you, Jim. Nice to be with you guys.
First off,
You as
guys,
well, thank you. Appreciate you guys. A lot of fun hearing that again.
yeah, had you heard the late Larry Zimmer's calls from that game? Had to bring chills to you.
You know what? I hear it quite a bit, and every time I hear it, it brings chills to me. A couple of things that stand out to me is the shock in Zim's voice when he sees OC throwing a pass, and secondly, I've never heard that Lance Carl gets behind the defense, so that felt good. And then the last thing is on Rem's interception when he stepped in front of Rod Smith. Rod Smith was a Colorado kid who went to Nebraska, so all those things always stand out to me.
I forgot about that, LC. No, that was a great. Zim was a great announcer. That was just epic. Great memories.
Yeah, great times. And one thing I remember, Platts and Jim, is when we practiced that play all week, and I think Coach Mack knew that we weren't going to be able to stand up and go with them toe to toe, so to speak. And so he had that Campbell reverse in. He put the pass to OC in, and he emphasized to me is, Carl, you got to come in there like you're going to crack him. So he knows you're going to crack him, because that's all we did was block. And so I did that, and that's what enabled me to get behind the defense. But OC threw a perfect pass, just like he had been practicing all week. So, and one more thing about that is, I remember it was kind of an overcast day, but at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the sun came out over the Flatirons. I remember that, and then we scored that touchdown. So it was meant to be.
Yeah, I have some great memory. I mean, they used to fill our stadium with red. That just drove me nuts. So to put it on them, our defense, I think that's what Mac really turned things around, is our defense actually started getting better in 84.
Yep.
And then in 85, we played toe to toe with them in Lincoln. And then we just put it all together on that game. And I think that's really what kind of set the tone. And, we had a lot of great Colorado kids on our team too, from those first couple of years that Mac recruited.
Yep.
That made a lot of difference.
And I think that year was frustrating for us, Jim. You know that when we started out 0-4, and we lost to CSU at home, and
Tough games.
yeah, and all those games were close games, and so we had some frustration built up. But we had, we were a close knit team, and we all, obviously believed in each other. So I think all those things came to fruition on that day in October.
Yeah. We lost that game at Ohio State. Remember that, where they called that field goal good when it was wide right? That just drove me nuts back then.
Not only it wasn't even a pass interference call. They called a pass interference call that was a phantom call. I know Platts remembers that. So that's what set up that missed field goal as well. So yeah.
You guys just covered my next question basically, because we opened 0-4, and the CSU, we were riding high off the 85 year, and then CSU almost shut us out. We scored with 30 seconds to go, and then we lost the next three by 10 points, which was frustrating as heck. So now we're 0-4. I had mentioned also that Ohio State field goal that was a phantom, but that was the Big Ten for you. But we're 0-4 after that first winning season in 6 years. What was the mindset during that open week before conference play?
Geez, do you remember Mac's speeches on to get us ready? I think he started his speech on Monday night that week. He usually waited till Thursday to really bring out the cannons, but he brought it out early, if I remember right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right, Ram. And Mac was known for the fiery speeches, but also I think back to those speeches, and there's usually one guy in the front row because the spray factor was high with Coach Mac. And it was Eric McCarty being in the front row, getting pelted, but he was all about it. So, but no, Coach Mac was, just an amazing man who was able to keep us together and keep us focused on the task at hand. And he never played us as a victim. He always thought that we were victors, and just kept us together. And I think, the staff he had in place was instrumental to that as well. He had some great coaches on that staff. And but more importantly, I think than anything, we all loved each other and cared about each other and knew we were better than what our record showed.
We had a yeah, we had a small senior class that year. That was my senior year,
Yeah.
and but we were a tight-knit team. Probably the greatest thing about Mac was his intensity to challenge you and challenge all the guys, right? And he wanted the best out of whether you were a special teams guy, it didn't really matter. He wanted the best out of you, and sometimes we played over our heads. We had to. It just evolved into a great chemistry that he brought to a team. And, he carried that on with the teams afterwards for sure.
One thing Mac did, but that I loved every week is he would do a matchup. Would be, it's we got Remington. They got Remington. I'll take our Remington any day. But if he
Right.
if he took the other team's guy, that was a challenge to you as a buff to step up and elevate your game. So, but I love those matchups he would do. I'll take this guy, and I'll take that guy, and it kind of just lit a fire under you as a competitor. You challenge your competitiveness every day, and um, we're all better men because of that.
So you,
Absolutely.
so you win in Missouri and beat Iowa State, setting up the game in Boulder against number three Nebraska, which came in as 17 and a half point favorite. Ridiculous. How was the team's confidence at that point?
Gosh, I thought we had a lot of confidence because we had played them so well. I mean, we lost what 17-7 the year before
Yeah,
in Lincoln, and they got a late touchdown. We were in it. I think we lost our quarterback in that game too.
yeah.
Um, and so I don't think anybody doubted we could play with them. Our defense was good enough to keep us in the game. It was, if we could manufacture enough points, and LC was part of that big manufacturing that we needed to get the win.
No, you're exactly right, Ram. I think Barry touched on earlier. Our defense set the tone for that team and allowed us to stay in that game and stay in all the games, really. Offensively, we were a wishbone team and, had some weapons there. But when you play against teams that are, lined up against the wishbone, lined up against run offenses like Nebraska and Oklahoma, they've seen most everything you can do. So that's where Coach Mack went to the trick bag and pull out those plays and you know enable us to score some points offensively to win that game. But the defense held us in that game. To hold Nebraska to 10 points is unheard of that year. I don't know what they averaged the whole year, but they came in and they were stifled that day. Steve Taylor was ultimately confident, but you could see he was broken by the second half of the game because they couldn't get anything going.
Actually, you go back to the '83 game where we lost 69-19 at Nebraska, and I remember it was 14-12 at halftime, and they scored 48 points on us in the third quarter. I remember calling home, and my dad was upset because he thought ABC screwed up the graphic, and we were behind 41-12 at halftime. And I go, no, Pop, they actually had 48 points in the fourth quarter or third quarter. But then you go to '84 at our place, and that's the game where, of course, Mac pulled out the stunt of coming out in the blue jerseys and warm-ups, and we're in the black, and that got the crowd going. And we were leading 7-3, and I went down to the office to see the last time we even led Nebraska going into the fourth quarter, and we hadn't since 1967. But by the time I got up to the press box, we were behind again. And you're right, Barry. In 1985, I think Rick Wheeler was eventually thrown to the Wolves to play in that game, and they scored late. So it was almost like a progressive. So we get to '86, and you were right. They led the nation in scoring. They came in averaging 41 points a game and averaging nearly 400 yards rushing, which,
Wow.
you lose them to 123. That was quite an effort in its own right. So having not beaten them since you were a toddler, how were things approaching leading up to that game? This one of the first times Coach Mack's ability as a motivator really came through.
Yeah, I mean he just had a vision. I mean, he had a vision for everything. He could tell a story. You would run through a brick wall for the guy. I mean, I've never heard a better speaker for sports and getting yourself fired up. We had some of the greatest speeches probably in '82 and '83 and didn't really take advantage of them because we weren't good enough. But I just so appreciated his intensity and you know, he got the most out of every player. He really did.
I think, in the staff room here on camp and the football offices, um, greatness is realized through the discipline of attending to the details. And Mac was very detail oriented. Whether I remember, I'll never forget. He believed the punt was the most important play of the game. Think about that. We dog punters and kickers all day, but he thought the punt was the most important play of the game, particularly for teams that lack the depth and talent, because it allows you to pin your opponent deep in their own territory and take advantage of field position. And he understood that at a time when most schools didn't. So that's why we love the team. That's why we love the nation in punting so many years in a row. But I remember him bringing out the yardstick. A yardstick that he wanted, and you have to have 3 feet between your separation between your center and your guards and tackles on your punt team, and he enforced that. And those small things, those details, the attention to details allows you to win games at the end of the day.
He had starters on that, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't just backup personnel. He thought that was so important. It was just another defensive play to him.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And I think if more teams took advantage of that attitude, and reinforced that, special teams really is the 30-year game plan, that we'd have more wins overall.
The team's confidence had to be sky high at halftime. Jeff Campbell scores on a 39-yard reverse, and Dave DeLine kicks his career-long field goal of 57 yards. Now, that's a heck of a pooch for a 10-0 CU lead at the half. Recall what the locker room was like, if you would.
you know, just hyped. You got a quiet confidence, but you also understand. We've kind of been in this position before a couple of times, so let's reinforce and keep our focus on the task at hand, which is the next play in front of you and the next man in front of you. Understanding that Nebraska can score at any time, Barry can speak to that, and us knowing offensively, we got to possess the football. We can't turn the football over, particularly on our side of the field, because the defense is playing so well that if we can secure the football, possess the football, own the football, that we can win the game.
Yeah, I just remember halftime thinking, gosh, let's just get back out there and let's quit talking about it. Um, and yeah, I think Nebraska got back into the game too. They scored in the second half there, I thought fairly early. Um, but, you know, I think the resolve of Coach Mack kind of spilled on over into us. We had a supreme confidence that we weren't going to let this go. I remember that.
No.
I think Barry has my script because he keeps jumping ahead to my questions. So, Lance, Nebraska is shut out in the first half for the first time in years, but scored with a minute left in the third quarter to cut the lead to 10-7. Now the fans are nervous. Here we go again. But the play of the year followed to open the fourth quarter. Who called the option pass for O.C. Oliver at that point? You had practiced it all week. Had you been waiting for the right moment? And obviously it turned out to be.
Yeah, there was I think a TV timeout because the quarter was changing over, and we met on the sideline, and they just Coach Mack just called the play and said it's time for that play. And I told the OC, I said, OC, just throw it, man, just throw it. You throw it out there beyond them, and I'll catch it. So that
Great.
was my focus was really just looking the ball into my hands and securing the football, because more often than not in those situations, particularly for a wishbone receiver, he doesn't see the ball very much. You get so excited to get a pass. You're like, oh my gosh, let me make sure I have this ball secure. So, and then once the ball was in the air, it wasn't a Peyton Manning duck by any means, but it was a little wobbly. But he threw it right where he needed to throw it, and the safety dove, and but was inches away from the ball. But a perfect pass by OC, and was fortunate enough to catch it and take it in.
Were you guys nervous in the huddle and anxious or antsy?
No, we weren't, because once again, Coach Mack's attention to detail. We practiced that play so much that week. I'm like, finally, Coach, we got this. No, do it again, run it again, run it again, run it again. That's how Coach Mack was, though. And no, so just fortunate that once again we practiced it enough that it became familiar to us, and we weren't necessarily overly nervous about the play because we practiced it so much.
Barry, you led the team in tackles that day with 9. and your interception with about 3 minutes left sealed the win. Is that when you knew the streak was going to end?
Yeah, two scores against our defense was going to be hard in that short amount of time, especially, Nebraska was more of a run team too. They were throwing at the end of the game because they had to. They were running out of time, and I was just I knew that they were going to try and get to the middle of the field because that's usually where it's open. And I was just fortunate enough to hold on to it, just like LC did. Yeah, I felt fortunate to catch it, and it was just a great time. It was a great memories. We all of us remember it like it was yesterday because it was that impactful.
I don't know if people remember, but in June of that year, you had the incident on the hill where you were walking home. You stepped on the bottle of acid.
Yeah,
Your
I didn't
vision was
have as
really
much depth
soon.
perception as I probably shouldn't have been playing, quite honestly. I don't know how I made it through that year. But kind of like Mac, he just kind of talked me through it, and and somehow I was able to do things that probably shouldn't have been doing.
You were not going to miss that game, Barry.
No, no, never. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish we'd played better against Oklahoma, but that's a different story.
yeah.
Well, they ran the wishbone forever, and here we are,
Yeah,
2 years, so they knew how to stop it. But
right,
still, it was amazing though. We're playing them for the Big Eight title. After
right.
Oklahoma 4, got us on TV.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that was great.
What do you guys remember post game? The field was flooded with fans. Both goalposts came down. Where were both of you at the time before you made it to the locker room? Were you in the middle of it all, or did you just hit straight to the locker room?
I think Lance was on the goalpost, weren't you?
No, that was David Tate and Conley Smith were on the goalpost. And David Tate and Conley Smith, they were the last ones in the locker room. We're like, well, Coach Mike's like, well, is everybody here? Is everybody gathered in here? And, we're punching holes in the locker room, the ceiling and everything, going crazy, obviously. But, Tate and Conley were out there pulling down the goalpost with all the frat guys. So we had to wait for them to come in. But they were the last two stragglers out there. But no, just absorbing the crowd, absorbing the wave of people on the field, and unlike anything you ever felt before. Because you guys mentioned earlier, 18 years of pain you go through, and there was no better feeling than seeing the Nebraska fans file out of the
Mhm.
stadium early. They had to leave, they actually left early that day, and that was unheard of, and just felt so good.
Yeah.
And we're wearing black uniforms versus that Columbine blue, so everything just aligned that day. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was special. I mean, as a Colorado kid, hearing the smack from Nebraska for so long, I still can't stand them. They could lose every game, it wouldn't
Mhm.
bother me a bit.
I still have no red in my closet. That's good.
Red is a tough color. I agree with you there. The game soon became known as the turning point in the McCarthy era. CU's first win over a top five team since 1972. What did that game mean to both of you and to the CU program at that time?
One thing more
Oh,
than anything, you knew you were part of something special, and you knew that win resonated with so many Buff fans who had been, like Barry said, those pain points all those years. It's like a generation removed that you hadn't beat a team. So, um, and once again, we knew we were a better team than our record showed. So, all the work you put in, all the running of the hills, and everything you go through to get to that culmination, just speaks volumes to Coach Mack and his leadership.
if you think about it, if we hadn't won that game, it really catapulted what Mac could do recruiting wise.
Yeah,
Right. The next year he had what, a top five recruiting class. Was it Bieniemy and Canavis and all those guys came in?
yeah,
And that really kind of lit the fire of what he could do. Um, it's a shame that he retired so early because that guy
oh,
was a recruiting machine.
yeah. Just a machine. It's a testament to what you can do when you focus on your recruiting on Colorado. And I wasn't a Colorado guy, I wasn't a Colorado recruit, but all those guys that came in with David Tate and John Embry and Rick Wheeler and Ed Reinhardt and all those buffs that came in the class of 83, Mac's first recruiting class, were the foundation for the future. And, so it can be done with Colorado kids. They can't be your sole focus, but you want to keep the
No,
best kids you can in state. And Barry's a testament to that. Barry could have gone to other schools, but he chose to be a buff. So it means a little more to the Colorado kids who grew up here and live here. And although we're a transient state, I still believe that, you get a similar number of Colorado kids on your team and they can set a foundation and it bleeds over to other guys on your team.
I totally agree with you, Lance. I wish they would do more recruiting and development of Colorado kids. You know,
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
not always going to get a 4 or 5 star, but you can get a ton of offensive linemen from the state of Colorado, kids that will, play harder than anybody else because it's their home state. And like Lance said, you don't need, you know, half the class to be from Colorado, but you got to have a handful of kids from here.
Yeah, exactly.
That actually the 87 recruiting class wasn't ranked because it was so small, because we only had the few seniors, but we had, I believe, 5 or 6 All-Americans between Bieniemy, McGee, Williams, Garton, and Tim James, and I think I'm forgetting somebody there, but
Oh yeah, Tim.
yeah, so it was quite the class. And nowadays, maybe with their point system, by average, it would have been definitely a top 5 class. Who gets 5 or 6 All-Americans in one recruiting class? That's pretty
Right.
limited anywhere you go. Before we go locally, that game overshadowed one of the most talked about moments in sports that year. You guys have any idea what it what it is? What happened that day?
March 25th, 86.
What else happened on October 25th, 1986?
Was it a World Series game?
That's the night Boston blew Game 6 to the Mets.
Buckner, get your glove down. Get your glove down.
So another team in red bit the dust, is what my point was.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Before we go, you guys have any final thoughts?
No, we appreciate you guys doing this. It's nice to be included in the history of Colorado, and we Barry and I stay in contact, and I'm the president of Buffs for Life, and just this place means a lot to all of us who wore the black and gold here, and honored to be part of your telecast. And Dave Plati, you're an icon and a legend, and Jim, you as well in the professional ranks. But we appreciate you guys as well.
Thank you so much.
What are you guys
Yeah,
supposed to
so
do before we go?
I
What are
so
you guys doing?
appreciate the fact you guys called us and included us. It's a real honor for me and Lance and our other teammates, right? If they get a chance to listen to this, they'll feel great about being part of 150 years. And no, I love Colorado. We all love it. We hope uh, CU gets things going again. And it's just kind of a different world with football now and sports, but I still bleed black and gold every time.
Amen.
And Lance still works for CU in the athletic department, and Barry, you're a real estate mogul, correct?
Yeah, still selling real estate. Not as easy as it used to be, but still doing it.
Nothing is, Barry. Nothing is, brother.
That's for sure. Nothing's changed since football. That's one thing I've learned.
That's right. That's right. We
And by
appreciate
the
you guys, Dave, and
by,
Dave, I look forward to seeing you soon, brother.
okay, by the way, all that 86 Nebraska game is on YouTube. It's condensed down to about an hour in length. It's got Larry Zimmer's KOA's call. So just type in Colorado, Nebraska 1986 and it pops right up.
Beautiful.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Take care.
Appreciate
Go
you.
Buffs.
Thank you
All
much.
right. Bye.
All right. Well, we hope you are enjoying our podcast. Keep spreading the word. We want to thank our sponsors, Pasta J's of Boulder, 10th and Pearl Street, CU Sports Medicine, the Colorado Collegiate Chronicle by the infamous Tim Simmons, and Mark Johnson for being our Don Pardo, introducing each moment's number.
That's a wrap on our 22nd podcast. Tune in next week for the next reveal of the state's top 150 moments. We hope you're enjoying our reminiscing with our Colorado Sports Hall of Fame guests, as well as our trips down memory lane in the state's sports history. A reminder that the Hall offers tours of the museum, as well as Empower Field and Mile High Stadium, and that the class for 2026 will will be inducted this April 16th in Denver.